What's going on, guys? So today I want to do a video talking about the elephant toenail. All right, this knife has a couple different names. It's a very large, you can see in my hand here, slip joint or traditional knife pattern. Okay, you can see one big old fat blade. More times than not, it had a secondary blade as well. Okay, so I want to make the video just to just talk about it a little bit because I think it's really interesting and fascinating. Of course, you guys know I love traditional knives. Although it's not a type of knife I carry all the time, it just has so much class, so much history. I do occasionally have one, you know, down in the pocket just because they're very cool. But this pattern is very, very interesting to me. This is the only slip joint that I know of that was specifically built and designed for batoning. Now I know that sounds crazy, right? Who is batoning with a slip joint? Well, from what I understand, and I learned this a couple of years back, and I was actually surprised because I knew about this pattern for years before I knew what its purpose was. And its purpose originally was to cut through thick diameter rope. Literally, people putting this on a fat rope and batoning it. All right, because obviously you can't just, you know, take like a 3 or 4 inch rope and just, you know, cut it like that. So yeah, this was very popular, from what I understand, in the oil fields. They use a lot of thick diameter rope. They often had to cut the rope, and that's their preferred method. Now, of course, there were fixed blades at the time, and you think there'd be a better method, but I guess a lot of people preferred this. There's the convenience of having a folding knife dipped down in the pocket. From what I understand, they had wooden mallets they would use, all right, but obviously, in a pinch, you can use anything to smack on the back of the blade here to cut through a thick rope when you needed to. Now, more times than not, this model also came with a smaller blade, and the smaller blade was for other work. So basically, you had your large dedicated blade for batoning through rope, and even if they got a little bit dull, you'd always have that backup blade for all your regular pocket cutting needs, okay, pocket knife needs. So this would more than likely stay sharper than the large one. I would imagine would dull out fairly quickly. Obviously, at the end of the workday, you can always, you know, sharpen it at home. But it's really, really interesting to know that's what the purpose was for these knives. Now again, this is called the elephant toenail. That's how I know it. But you know, reading all these old books and stuff, the Sunfish pattern was more commonly used as opposed to elephant toenail. I like elephant toenail. I mean, it's a very large knife. I mean, the obvious suggestion is that it's the size of an elephant's toenail. Sunfish, I get that too. I mean, obviously, a lot of people fish, and you know, if you catch a bunch of small bluegill or something, a lot of sunfish, I guess that could be a similar type shape, you know, I suppose. There's a couple variants on this. This one has more of the rounded bolsters. There's some versions of this pattern that have more of a squared off bolster on both sides, as well as another version that kind of swells towards the middle here. All right, so, and there's slightly different names for those as well for the people who collect these. But generally speaking, elephant toenail or sunfish. Way back in the day when these became popular, late 1800s, early 1900s, pretty much every knife company was making their own version of this, okay? So there were different names for it because of that. And that's what's interesting too, because originally I was curious as to why people called it. Like, if it's called an elephant toenail, why are some people calling it a sunfish? Well, that's because different companies wanted to differentiate themselves. So one company would sell this pattern and call it a sunfish. A different company would sell the pattern and call it elephant toenail. A different company would call it the jumbo. Another name for it was the rope knife or vest pocket axe. That was one particular company, I don't remember offhand, but that's how they sold this to make it different. It wasn't like, oh, we're not selling another elephant toe, now we're selling the vest pocket axe. It had more of a punch to it, right? So super, super interesting knife. This one in particular is a Rough Rider one, so this is very affordable. Rough Rider makes, you know, affordable knives or cheap knives. I don't like using the word cheap too much because people think that means, you know, low quality. Now, it is lower quality than, like, let's say a W.R. Case & Sons version of the knife, but it works. It's totally fine. And for my purpose, I'm not carrying it and I'm not batoning through rope with it very often. I've never batoned through rope, although I might try that in the future just to see how efficient it is. But it's just a good representation of it because it is more affordable. So if you like this design, you like this idea, you don't have to go out and spend $150 on a vintage one or anything like that. You can get a more affordable version. This one's very cool in a kind of burnt smooth bone, all right? And it has a very traditional acorn shield, all right? Might be a little bit harder to see here, so let me zoom in for you. You can see the RR on top of the acorn for Rough Rider. All right, nice decorative kind of nail nick. As you open this up, very simple tang stamp on here for Rough Rider. If you look on the back here, you can see it is made in China, and the model number there, RR887, okay, in case you guys wanted to Google it or something. And towards the top of the blade there, it says 440 razor sharp steel. All right, see plenty of scratches and stuff because this one is very well used. I actually got this in a trade a little while back, but did carry it once or twice just for the heck of it. And you know, it is sharp enough. I was able to touch up the blade very easily because of the 440. All right, and you know, it just gives you a lot of knife to hold on to. More times than not, when you have a traditional knife pattern, it's something that's, you know, more slender, much smaller, more dainty. This is, you know, the Medford of the 1800s. I'll put it that way. Just totally overbuilt. A knife that you can beat on, even though there's no locking mechanism on here. It's just very fascinating to me that guys preferred this over a fixed blade. Maybe they just didn't want to have a belt knife on them. Maybe they had a belt knife and they didn't want to ruin it. I have no idea. Just passing on the information. Not saying it was the best option, but it certainly was the go-to option for a lot of people in that era. But super, super interesting. So yeah, I mean, a lot of times when people collect traditional knives, they focus in on certain patterns that they really like. You guys know I used to love, well, I still do love them, but I don't collect them necessarily anymore. But I used to love Texas toothpicks just because it was cool, it was different, you know. I really do love trappers. It's such a traditional pattern, and that's what I'm currently focused on is trappers. But I have to say, I mean, just talking about it, it's kind of rekindling my love for this particular pattern because it's so unique and so different. Not to mention, they're just huge knives. They're just fun to play with. They're fun to show off. It's a very cool collectible. Anyway, just wanted to talk about this a little bit, show it off for the people maybe who haven't heard this before. The elephant toenail, it's a very, very cool knife pattern to collect and a very cool one to carry and use because it has such a story behind it. And I love knives with a story. So let me know down in the comment section, have you ever owned this knife? Do you specifically collect elephant toenails or sunfish patterns? I'd love to know. I know there's plenty of people out there who do, just a matter of whether they catch this video or not. But that's it for now. Thanks for watching. Hope you guys have a wonderful day, and I will see you tomorrow with a brand new video. Take care.